Good afternoon, members. It is the appointed time and we have a quorum. We welcome the Deputy Secretary for Transport and Logistics, Mr. Edward Mack, PS for Transport and Logistics, Mr. Percy Leung, Ms. Kiki Chan, Assistant Secretary, and Ms. Candy Kwok, Deputy Commissioner for the Transport Department. Also, we have Ms. Wong from the DOJ and also from the, and also Mr. Francis Leung, Chief Superintendent. Deputy Secretary, please. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members, for joining this Bills Committee to scrutinize the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2025. Allow me to first brief members on the bill's proposal, and then the Transport Department will present a PowerPoint presentation. Now, the bill seeks to amend the Road Traffic Ordinance for the implementation of Electronic Driving License, or EDL. Now, EDL is one of the measures to digitalize the licensing services of the Transport Department and also for a part of the government's smart government project. Driving license holders, including driving instructors license holder, will have an additional option to display or present their driving license on smartphones. To facilitate presentation and compliance of the requirements to display the driving licenses to authorized personnel. Now, that includes commercial vehicle drivers. Their paper form driving license have seen frequent use, so this will facilitate the presentation of license as well. Now, in the future, license holder can log on to the EDL app, which will retrieve information in real time from the Transport Department's database and display it on the smartphone. Now, we understand that under certain situations, drivers need to present their physical driving license. That's why the Transport Department will continue to issue physical driving licenses to drivers to provide another option for drivers. Now, to prevent counterfeiting, we will stipulate an offense for counterfeiting driving license. Also, the TD will implement a series of safeguards, including preventing screen capping in the app and display the dynamic logo of the TD, and also set a time limit for the QR code displayed to help enhance the authentication of the driving license. Now, EDL has been supported by stakeholders. There are more and more users using our services online. Through streamlining procedures and digitalization, the TD has been innovating license management to facilitate convenience for users. Now, the EDL measure will provide more convenience to users. If the bill is passed by the Legislature, we will implement the EDL by the middle of this year. The TD will engage in various channels to publicize the EDL to users, including our website as well as communications and circulars with the logistics sector and also APIs. Now, may I invite Ms. Helen Lee from the Transport Department to present the PowerPoint. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Thank you, Deputy Secretary, and thank you, Chairman and members. I will brief members on the salient points of the bill. Now, the main purposes of the bill are as follows. First, to introduce a specified electronic platform to display the EDL. Two, empowering the Commissioner for Transport to specify the electronic platforms for presenting the EDL. Initially, this will be a mobile application developed by the Transport Department to be used on smartphones. I will go into the detail of that later on. Three, to provide driving license holders an alternative to fulfill the relevant requirements of carrying or producing a driving license for examination or inspection. Currently, under CAP 374, all drivers are required to carry their driving license when they are driving a motor vehicle on the road. On certain situations, police officers can require drivers to present their driving license for inspection. Now, in terms of license issuance, the Transport Department issue various driving licenses under the Road Traffic Driving Licenses Regulation, CAP 374B, that include full driving license, learner's driving license, and driving instructor's license. As at February this year, some 2.6 million of the population hold driving licenses. Most of them hold a full driving license, which is valid for 10 months. For other types of driving licenses, the valid period is different. Now, currently, the drivers will use their driving license frequently because they have to present it to authorized personnel. That would make it ineligible in time. So that's why we are implementing the EDL. There are several benefits. First of all, with widespread use of technology, we can provide convenience to the 2.5 million drivers. Second, driving license holders, especially commercial vehicle drivers, can choose to display their DL on smartphones. Three, this can facilitate the inspection and examination of driving license during the daily work of the police officers and authorized personnel. Four, after an online application is approved, drivers can immediately use the EDL without a physical driving license. This will encourage more members of the public to make use of our online services. Now, there are several proposals in the bill. First, we will stipulate for the format and way of access to EDL. As I've mentioned, the EDL is just an alternative option for physical driving license. They will not replace physical driving license, so we will continue to issue paper-formed driving licenses. Now, by way of a notice on the Gazette published by the Commissioner for Transport, we can specify the formats of the electronic driving license and driving instructor's license. The Commissioner can also specify the platform for displaying the EDL. This is not a subsidiary legislation. There will be an app to display the EDL. I will now go into the detail of the app, which is developed by the Transport Department for use on mobile phones. Now, I will explain how to log on to the app and also the formats of the documents. Now, the EDL app supports iOS from Apple, Android, Google Play, and also Harmony. It can be downloaded for free from the app stores. In terms of login, for Hong Kong ID card holder, they need to log on to the app via I'm Smart. For non-Hong Kong ID card holders, they can make use of their TTE licensing portal to log in for the first time. Now, after the first login, you can authenticate the use of biometrics for login. On the left-hand side, you can see how the EDL looks. On the right-hand side, this is the physical driving license. Currently, on the physical driving licenses, all the information displayed and data displayed will be stored in the electronic versions. Now, the types of vehicle classes on the back is shown on the EDL as well. The names of the drivers and also the expiry date will also be displayed on the EDL. There are also additional information to be retrieved That includes the dynamic TD logo and also the last update time. That is the last time you log on to your EDL. And also there is a QR code which comes with a countdown clock. After 15 minutes time, the EDL will be logged out automatically. Now the QR code is for the police officers to scan for law enforcement purposes. And also there is the word valid on top of the QR code to show that the EDL is still valid. And there are push notifications reminding drivers to renew their licenses. Now the second part of the bill is to legislate for the production of EDL for examination or inspection. This is to make EDL a viable option for complying with the law. That is, if the drivers can present an electronic device which can display the EDL, they would be deemed to have fulfilled the requirements to carry their driving licenses. Similarly, DL holders can present the EDL for law enforcement or inspection purposes to comply with the law. Now, there are several occasions where the drivers will be deemed not to have shown the EDL. First, displaying the EDL via a platform other than the specified platform. Two, because of faults with the electronic device, police officers and authorized personnel cannot read or scan the QR code. And three, unable to provide convenience or facilitate the police officers or authorized personnel to read or scan the driving license. Now, in making prosecutorial decisions, the prosecution will consider the individual circumstances of the cases. The third part of the bill is to stipulate for the handling of surrendered, deposited, returned, and withholding of withheld license. Now, under Section 39U of the RTO, a person's driving licenses may be detained for 24 hours if the police officer suspected that a crime has been committed. So if you can display or present your EDL, you will be deemed to have fulfilled the 24-hour suspension requirement. Now, the police will update the information immediately and render the EDL invalid for 24 hours. Now, in terms of revocation of the driving license or suspension or cancellation, the same will be shown on the EDL up until when the order has expired. Finally, publicity and education. As I said, we have 2.5 million drivers in Hong Kong. So upon passage of the bill, we will issue a press release and launch a massive publicity campaign. We will upload educational videos and instructions on the website. We will also provide information in relation to the mobile app to law enforcement agencies. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. I believe that you've noticed that our legal advisor have written a letter to the administration, and the administration have given a reply. Now we can start discussing the bill. When we come to the relevant clauses, the legal advisor will remind us of their questions. I see that 8 members have pressed the button. Each of you will have 5 minutes. Mr. Benson Look, Mr. Chao Xiu Chong, Mr. Chan Xiu Hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Chan Pui Lan, Mr. Duncan Chiu, Mr. Gary Zhang, and Ms. Doreen Kong. Mr. Benson Look, 5 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I support the launch of e-driving license. This will make things more convenient for drivers who drive to make a living and regular motorists. I wonder if we will turn other licenses into e-versions in the future. I have a few questions. First, just now the administration explained that the EDL will be displayed on a new and independent mobile application to be developed by the Transport Department. As far as I understand, together with this mobile application, TDS has 3 mobile applications altogether. I believe that different bureaus and departments will roll out different applications. It's difficult for you to connect all the applications. But I think that we should have a single app under the Transport Department so that we don't have to have 3 serving different purposes or functions. What's the difficulties in having a single app, and how much does it cost to develop this EDL app? Second, the Transport Department has been working on end-to-end e-services or e-process, and drivers can renew their licenses online now. And in the future, the e-driving license can also be renewed online. This will save time for the people. Is there any room for us to reduce frontline manpower? Or should we redeploy them to carry out other duties? Third, regarding the reasonable defense or reasonable excuse defense, what happens if the mobile phones of the drivers became out of battery, or if there's a territory-wide network outage such that the drivers cannot show their driving license on their mobile phones? What happens? Will that constitute a reasonable excuse defense? Mr. Mack, thank you. Thank you for your support. We note your view. The Transport Department should consolidate all the applications into one. Well, actually, by the end of last year, we rolled out a licensing portal. For vehicle owners who are individuals, companies, or those without identity card, can register their vehicles on the portal. They will know when their vehicle license is going to expire. They will be able to know how many driver offense points they have accumulated on the relevant portal as well. So why are we developing this new EDL application? The target users of the e-licensing portal and EDL app are different. For e-licensing portals, the users could be company, and they may prefer using the website on desktop. For EDL app, people mostly use it on mobile phones. That's why we develop another application. Second, we work with the Digital Policy Office for e-driving license and other licenses and certificates of the Transport Department. The DPO consolidate them into a single certificate on the IM Smart platform. The cost of developing this EDL app is $12.5 million. Regarding a renewal of driving license online, we believe that we will be able to reduce manpower by digitalizing our process. Currently, about 40% of drivers renew their licenses online. We hope to raise the percentage further so that we can reduce manpower at the licensing office so that people don't have to wait so long. But for closed area permits, there is a rise in demand for such. That's why we have redeployed manpower to handle the applications for such permits. For reasonable excuse defense, if you forget to bring your driving license when you're driving, in the laws, we say that if you don't have a reasonable excuse, then you would have committed the offense. Of course, we have to take the case to the court, and the judge would listen to the reasons given by the defendants. But actually, the police and the transport department will look at all the circumstances of a case before they decide on whether arrest should be made. Say, for example, if there is a, say, systemic network outage on a particular day, the police may decide not to prosecute the relevant driver who are not able to display their e-driving license on their mobile phones. They may choose not to issue a fixed penalty notice. Some drivers lose their driving license together with a wallet, and some of them forget to bring their driving license when they're driving. If we see a loss report being made to the police, then we consider that a reasonable excuse. What if the phone runs out of battery? We'll have to look at the circumstances of the case. But in the legislation, it is said that if you don't have a physical driving license and you're not able to display your EDL on your mobile device, then you would not have complied with the laws. But we have to look at the circumstances of the case before we decide whether or not to go for prosecution. Mr. Chao Xiuchong. Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong is developing into a smart city. I believe that we do need to launch an e-driving license. I believe that also people support it. For occupational drivers or delivery workers, they use their driving license all the time. They have to register their driving license at the property management office sometimes. I have a question regarding the mobile application. It's not cheap for you to develop an independent application for a single purpose. You just said that you spent some $10 million on it. In the future, EDL app will display the EDL, but for e-licensing portal, we use it to check how many driver's offense points we have accumulated and other certificates and licenses we have. I think that the government should look into whether you can consolidate all these applications. It's sometimes hard for us to remember which application or websites to use. Second, people can choose to apply for an e-driving license or not. But I wonder if we are going to phase out the paper-based driving license eventually. Are you going to encourage people to go for the e-driving license so that we eventually won't have to send a physical driving license to the people? This will save us costs. Now people have to pay $9,000 to renew their driving license. or $900 to renew their driving license. In the future, if they don't request a physical driving license, perhaps you should reduce their fees. I hope that this is the direction that you will take. Third, according to paragraph 11 of the LegCo brief, it is said that normally the license holder will not be required to give or hand over the mobile device on which the EDL is displayed to the authorized officer. What do you mean by normally? Under what circumstances would the license holder be required to hand over the mobile device to the authorized officer? I think that unless you're arresting the person, you should not be able to ask the person to hand over the mobile phone to you. Can you tell us under what circumstances would the license holder be required to hand over the device? Can you give us some examples? What is the legal basis for that? 3 questions. Thank you. Let me first talk about the mobile application. I thank Mr. Chow for supporting this initiative. We keep an open mind. When more people are using the e-driving license in the future, maybe we'll combine the e-licensing portal and the EDL application. But as I've explained, the e-licensing portal is a desktop version, and it's a website. For EDL app, you can look at your license and you will be reminded when your driving license is expiring. We will be sending push notifications to users of the application. At the initial stage, we are still going to send physical driving license to the people. We think that this is a more appropriate approach. Say, for example, in Hong Kong, there are areas where there is no network reception, then people should be able to produce their physical driving license. In other countries, some authorized officers need the drivers to produce not just the international driving license, but also the physical driving license that they get from Hong Kong. So we are going to issue both the e and the physical driving license at the initial stage. We will look into whether we can go complete paperless in the future. We will monitor the progress and the utilization rate. We will conduct publicity so that more people will use the e-driving license. Lastly, we don't ask the license holder to hand over the mobile phones to the authorized officer. However, if there is suspected deception, then the police officers are authorized to seize the mobile device. Otherwise, as long as the people can show their e-driving license on their mobile phones effectively so that the authorized officers can scan or inspect the EDLs, then that's fine. Thank you.
Dr. Chow, any follow-up questions? Yes, just very briefly. Concerning going full paperless. Now, for locations where there is no signal, the drivers need to present the physical driving license. Then why bother? I will carry the paper-based one anyway. Second, when I'm going to travel outside, I will apply for a physical driving license. You don't have to provide each and every of the 2.6 million drivers the paper-based driving license. So please consider my suggestion. Next, Mr. Chan Siu-Hong. Chairman, I welcome the more widespread use of technology to implement the concept of e-government. Now, the EDL measure will benefit the 2.5 million drivers in Hong Kong, while furthering the government's efforts to make Hong Kong a smart city. There are many benefits. However, there are many concerns raised by members, including Dr. Zhao Xiuchong, one of which is when we are implementing the EDL to facilitate the use of a digitalized platform, you need to save money. Tens of millions of money. This is a big sum. And also you need to dedicate continuous resources to support the platform. We haven't reached the one-stop government service yet. So the cost in the future will be substantial. Now, everyone has the ID card. So maybe the Deputy Secretary cannot answer this question. From a policy level, can a driver use their ID card as the driving license? Now, I like your vision, but what about allowing drivers to discharge of their legal duty by using the ID card? Now, I have paid a visit to the licensing division of the Transport Department. I think you have thought out everything about the scheme. But I have a question about the dual-track model, that is EDL plus physical driving license. It means that no money will be saved. When you are still issuing the physical driving license, you still need to dedicate manpower and resources to it. A simple question. If a driver is stopped by a police officer, if they present a physical driving license, the police officer would call the console to verify the data. And if the driver presents the EDL, the police officer would do the same. So there may be some drivers who are less tech savvy. We understand that. So can you make reference to the traffic offense ticket model? Now, e-fixed penalty. Can we draw reference to that and go full paperless in the future? Many places in the world have electronic driving license. So do they follow the same route? Do they adopt a dual-track model at the beginning, or do they go fully paperless right off the bat? Deputy Secretary. Thank you. The intent of the bill is to digitalize the driving license. The ultimate goal is go fully digital. Say, for example, the quota-free scheme for Hong Kong vehicles to travel northbound. So under the northbound traveling scheme, it is a fully digitalized model. So if there are fewer applicants applying for a license as the physical office, we can free up manpower as the office and deploy them elsewhere. So that's also a goal of the bill. So when there is a wide acceptance in the public for a fully digital driving license, and all the wrinkles are ironed out, then maybe we can consider going down the full digital route. We will consider that in the long run. Now, we have made reference to places like the mainland, some states in the US, Singapore, Australia. For the mainland, the country adopted a dual-track model. There is an electronic driving license for the normal functions, but there is also a physical license in the form of a booklet. Now, when the drivers have to surrender the license, that would be the one to be surrendered. Just very briefly, now this is the physical driving license. I've had it for some 30 years. There is so little data on it, not even my photograph. So I think we should begin early, say 1 or 2 years after the passage of the bill, replace physical driving license completely. I believe that you will be able to save a lot of money and manpower. You have to laminate the card and you need to mail the card to the applicants. We should save money where we can. So instead of adopting a dual-track model, why don't we go down that path right from the start? Mr. Andrew Lam, thank you. I do treasure my physical driving license because I'm a nostalgic person. This is my only possession which is laminated. Now, in the long run, going fully digital is a natural thing, but I would even be bolder. As the other members have said, there is only a few pieces of information on the card. The driver's license number is the same as your ID card number. So actually, everything is on your ID card. If you don't have your driving license, the police officer would refer to your ID card and verify information with the console. It's the same. I know you are not ready to do that yet, but I think the direction should be like this. That would avoid a lot of trouble and save a lot of resources, not just the transport department, but the government as a whole. E-licensing. Now, the other question, with the EDL coming, according to the Deputy Secretary, drivers will have to use their smartphone to present the EDL. That's okay. But what about other devices which can display the EDL? Screen capping and other actions, they can be performed on smartphones. So what about other devices? Another question, one would presume that the driver would be using their own smartphone to present the EDL. So it may run out of battery or it may fail to boot up. But what about the scanners used by the police officers? Would they be faulty? Deputy Secretary, thank you. The Transport Department has been communicating with the OGCIO on integrating the information on driving licenses with ID cards. Now, the digital office is now upgrading the I'm Smart. Within this year, the personal digital licensing function would be available on I'm Smart Plus. The EDL will be incorporated under the I'm Smart Plus platform. With the authenticating function of the I'm Smart, one can log onto the EDL easily. So there will be a move to integrate all the licenses under the I'm Smart Plus by the digital office. Concerning the scanners used by police officers, what if they fail to scan the QR code? Now, we have followed the guidelines laid down by the Digital Policy Office to conduct a series of tests, including stress tests, and we have recruited white hackers to perform mock attack for us. That is to ensure that the system security is sound. Now, if there is a hardware issue, then the police officers would follow the law enforcement guidelines to handle each case separately. Maybe the police officer can verify the information with the console with other means. Concerning whether there are other electronic devices to display the EDL, I would defer to the TD. Assistant, Deputy Commissioner, please. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Lam, for your question. According to our design, we attach a lot of importance to anti-counterfeiting features. So according to the design, the app can only be verified by I'm Smart, and only one account can be logged on to at any one time. Now, about the anti-counterfeiting features, we have anti-screen capping feature and also a dynamic TT logo to enhance the authenticating feature of the mobile app. Just very briefly, Chairman, I will raise it up during the clause-by-clause scrutiny phase, because according to the bill, you did not specify mobile phone, you just say smart devices. Now, what if the police officer drops the scanner on the floor? That would still be fine because they can still simply make a call to the console to verify the driver's identity. It's all good. Mr. Chen Pulang. Chairman, I agree with my colleagues that with the advance of the EDL, do we still need the physical driving license? Can I have an option to forego the physical driving license completely? That would save some cost. Just give it this choice. Second, while displaying the EDL, one doesn't have to hand over the smartphone to the police officers. Now, when we are stopped for an inspection, usually we would be asked to switch off the engine and present the ID card and driving license. So I have to hand over my driving license to the police officers. In the future, when my EDL is on the phone, would that be different? For physical driving license, I have to present it and give it to the police officer. Do I have to do the same for the phone? Final question. Must we use the mobile app to present the EDL? And when we purchase e-air ticket, the boarding pass would be emailed to you via your email account. And then you can simply put the boarding pass into your e-wallet. It's so easy to present it. I can bring it up by a tap. So are there more convenient way to display the EDL? I don't know about the technical feasibility of it, but can we explore these angles?
多謝主席，多謝陳議員。
Three questions. Thank you, Chairman. on whether there is any difference in terms of enforcement when the driver is showing a physical or e-driving license. I will ask the police to supplement. Mobile phone is essential in the presentation of e-driving license. We ask the people to turn on their mobile phones, turn on their application, and display the EDLs to the police officers. As long as the officers can scan the QR code, that would be fine. I will ask the police to elaborate later on. As to why we have to ask people to use the EDL app instead of allowing people to save their EDL as an image in their phones, that's because we need to make sure that the EDL is displayed in real time and that the EDL is real. Because some people may have their driving license suspended by the transport department. That's why we need the people to display the EDL on the EDL application. Because the EDL application will get the information from the backend system of the transport department. We don't allow any screenshots of the e-driving license. So this is to make sure that the driving license is true and real. Should we allow people to choose not to receive the physical driving license? We're working towards that. But at the initial stage, we'll still send the physical driving license to the people. I will ask the police to supplement. Mr. Lan, Chief Inspector, please. Thank you. Traditionally, we ask drivers to switch off their engines and produce their driving license. That's because there is no photo on the driving license. That's why we need to compare the driving license with the identity card to verify the names and the photos. This is a multi-layer authentication. We just now talked about how we can verify the e-driving license. The network situation may vary and the mobile phones may run out of battery and may drop on the phone. So things can change significantly on site. The authorized officers can make a call to the console and they will be able to retrieve information to verify the e-driving license. Currently, drivers only have to hand over their physical driving license to the police. However, for e-driving license, because it's displayed on people's mobile phones and there are much personal information on people's mobile phone, that's why we don't ask them to hand over the phones. For truck drivers with high or concrete mixers, their seat is higher. That's why we may ask the drivers to hand over their mobile phones to the police officers. Mr. Chen, any follow-up questions? Thank you. The e-plane tickets can be updated in real time, too. So that's actually feasible. Mr. Tan Kan-chiu. Thank you, Chairman. I support the digitalization of licenses. We want to address all of our pain points by digitalizing our licenses. I wonder if there is a timetable. Say, when are you going to phase out all the physical driving license? Drivers won't be children, baby, or very old people. There is an age limit for holders of driving license. I wonder when we're going to completely phase out the physical driving license. I don't think that the functions of our identity cards have been exhausted. There's chips installed in our identity card now. Perhaps we should also include the driver's offense points, record, and the driving license in the chips of the identity cards. I think that's completely feasible. When are we going to combine the driving license with the identity card? Second, on the design of the application, just now it is said that it's web-based. I thought that the application would be like e-channel. I can log on to my e-channel application via IM-Smart. I will have to scan my face and scan the QR code. That's necessary because it's about customs clearance. For EDL application, you said that people can log on to it via biometric authentication, and then the people have to show their QR code to the authorized officers. Why can't you include that also in the IM-Smart application? In the IM-Smart application, there is a folder of licenses and certificates. Why don't you include that in the application? I don't mind launching the IM-Smart, clicking the license folders, and showing the driving license. I don't need two separate applications. It's not about customs clearance. I don't need to launch the e-driving license that fast. When things are not so urgent, we should have been able to include that driving license in the IM-Smart application. I think perhaps you should also include that in the e-licensing portal. How many users are there on the e-driving or e-license portal? If you include e-driving license in the e-licensing portal, then there'll be more users of the portal because people will be able to check everything on it. Thank you. Deputy Secretary. Thank you. I will ask the Transport Department to further elaborate on the web-based e-licensing portal and the EDL mobile application. They will explain why we developed the mobile application. I also like to talk about the relationship between the EDL application and IM-Smart. IM-Smart is for individuals holding identity cards. But for vehicle owners that are companies, they don't have an IM-Smart application. And people who don't hold an identity card also don't have an IM-Smart account. That's why we developed this separate EDL application. For the e-licensing portal, people who don't have an identity cards and companies can launch their e-licenses on the portal. That's why we need to have this e-licensing portal. And that's why we also need the EDL application. We cannot completely rely on IM-Smart. We keep an open mind to including the driving license information in the chip of the identity card. We are working on it with the Digital Policy Office. In the personal digital licenses folder in the IM-Smart application, people will be able to check their driving license as well. After the EDL is launched, we will monitor the acceptability of it and its popularity before we decide when we will allow people to opt out from a physical driving license. Chairman, if I'm a lorry drivers or truck drivers who drive to make a living, I would have an identity card. If I have an identity card, I would have to install IM Smart application. I don't think that there's any problem with linking the driving license to the IM Smart. Say if you're a tourist from the UK, you should be able to register your driving license online. Mr. Chiu, I don't think that we should discuss technical issues. Now, I do think that what you said was feasible, but they already said that they are looking into it. The app has already been developed. Mr. Gary Chang. Thank you. I have a few questions. I know that screen capture will not be allowed. I wonder why that is. The design of the application is comprehensive enough. The last update time will be displayed on the application, but sometimes we need to screen capture the e-driving license. Sometimes we may need to upload the EDLs. Now we have to scan the driving license, the physical driving license. In the future, even if we have the EDL, we have to still scan the physical driving license. We cannot screen cap the EDL and upload it. I think that's rather inconvenient. For e-licensing portal, will we be able to check our EDL on the portal? Or do we have to launch the EDL application to check our license? If the latter is true, that is, we have to check our license on the EDL application, regardless. I think that at least we should include the driver's offense points on this application. Because when we launch the EDL application, I think that drivers would like to know how many driver's offense points they have accumulated. Thank you. 2 questions. Thank you. I will ask the Transport Department to elaborate later on. After logging onto the e-licensing portal, you can click on the EDL button, and then that will bring you to the EDL app. You will be able to check your driver's offense points on the portal. The police is launching the e-enforcement system. They will be able to, well, the application will allow people to check their driver's offense points as well.
Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. Prohibition on screen capping is one of the several security measures under the app. Now, we understand members have different views, including Mr. Gary Zhang. Since we have a real-time dynamic QR code and also the timestamp on the issuance of the EDL or the updates of the EDL, can we allow screen capping? So we will see if that can be allowed. Now about the TD e-licensing portal, if I want to check how many points I've left on my license. Do I need to log on to the e-licensing portal by the IM Smart? In the future, there may be an e-enforcement platform run by the police. I know we can do that, but since we are going to have the EDL, for a driver, it would be a more convenient tool for learning about how many points they have left. Deputy Secretary, Chairman, we will consider this. This will not be available in the first stage, but in the second stage, it should be available. Now, concerning the enhancement, why don't you listen to members' views after the meeting and talk to them first before deciding on which enhancement functions to include? Ms. Doreen Kong, Chairman, there may be issues like a network failure, phones running off batteries, and so on. Now, if these are the pitfalls of the EDL, then in the long run, not many drivers will apply for EDL. Now, we are spending tens of millions of dollars on the platform, but if we fail to encourage universal usage of EDL, it would be a waste. From the PowerPoint presentation just now, it seems that there are many steps to conjure the EDL. So I don't see any other benefits other than saving you the trouble to bring along a small driving license. Digitalization should be a tool to make our life more convenient. So the more apps you use, the more inconvenient it is. Digitalization shouldn't mean more and more apps. So like Mr. Chen Xihong said, if you have an Hong Kong ID card, at least you should be able to perform just almost any function with the ID card. In Singapore, in 2005, they have already used 2022, they have already allowed users to use their ID card as a driving license. Now, I'm not a very tech-savvy person, but I have a lot of apps from the government. Kai Tak Sports Park, the HA Go, I'm Smart, Hong Kong e-meter, and so on. Now, the options on the I'm Smart comes in very tiny boxes. It's very inconvenient. Now, the development cost of the app is $12 million. So how much do you need to spend on maintenance each year? Now, you said many times just now that in the long run, you will go fully paperless. That would be the next step. Now, e-tax return, since 2000, 25 years on, I can tell you for sure that the majority of the public don't use e-tax. So how can you convince us that for the next step, which is nowhere in sight, you can go fully digital? How many years will it take? Now, for unlikely scenarios, like if I am involved in a car crash and I'm unconscious, or if I have forgotten my password, well, I am in a daze and I can't present to you my electronic driving license. That would be very tough for me. And what if I change my phone? Now, sometimes police officers are not that patient. If I ask the police officer to wait for me to find my EDL, will they be so patient and give me the time? Will they give me a hard time? Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Kong, for your questions. I would defer to the police to explain how it works on the front line. Now, about changing your phone. The EDL is stored within the app. So you're not storing the EDL on your phone itself. Every time the app will retrieve the information from the backend server of the TD. So even if you change the phone, that wouldn't be a problem because the app would just be retrieving the information all the same. Now, maintenance cost, it is $1.8 million per year, mainly on software maintenance and updates and also online security. Now, full digitalization, this is the ultimate goal. Now, it would be best if we have a one-stop licensing platform. So that's why the TD will definitely be involved in the Digital Policies Office efforts to offer a one-stop licensing platform. Now, if you use the I'm Smart and log on to the e-licensing portal and present the EDL to the police, it just takes a minute. I would defer to the police concerning the actual law enforcement. Superintendent, Mr. Francis Leung, thank you, Ms. Kong. Now, on the front line, all of our drivers on the road are, all of our colleagues on the road are also drivers, so they would understand the difficulties of drivers. So they would be very reasonable and give sufficient time for drivers to retrieve the EDL, especially for elderly drivers. In case of a traffic accident, when the driver is in a daze or unconscious, of course, they would treat them with compassion. But there are other methods, for example, asking for the Hong Kong ID card number and verify the data with the console. Our frontline officers will do their best to accommodate the public and those in need. Thank you, Mr. Tony Jie. Thank you, Chairman. Now, many members ask the government to do more. That is the right attitude. I also heard the replies from the Deputy Secretary and the team. The government is open to this idea. For me, I support going due track at the moment. Of course, we all strive for the best, but how long will it take? In terms of smart development and INT, the development is so fast that you simply can't catch up. So I prefer you to take the first step rather than wait. There is never a goal in sight, so you need to continue to improve the system. So rather than making it perfect before you launch it, I would rather the government take the first step. The framework should allow adjustments to the system. The concern is the amount of cost saved by going due track. So in terms of the benefits of the EDL, I think slide 4 in the presentation has explained the benefits. So of course we will be asking for more functions, but I think the government will do it sometime in the future. But rather, we take the first step. Several years ago, we have been talking about automated parking and so on. It still hasn't realized because the developments of the technology is still evolving. So I hope, I think the government will accommodate enhancements in the future. Now, for a due track model, it will offer more options to the public. But what about the charge? If you go for the, if you choose the EDL, will you have to pay more to the TD? Thirdly, now, a normal driving license comes with a validity period of 10 years, and you can renew the license online. On the other hand, for elderly drivers, they need to renew their licenses more frequently, maybe 1 year or every 3 years. So there are concerns whether the platform is elderly friendly. So I hope the TD will not neglect the needs of elderly drivers. Deputy Secretary, the charge. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Jay. We always strive to make our public services cost effective, and we will not change the fee level for our licensing services. Now in the future, when we go fully paperless, more costs will be saved and the fee level will be adjusted. Initially, we will not change the fee for our licensing services. Now we defer to the TD on how we are facilitating the use of EDL by elderly drivers. Assistant Commissioner, thank you. In terms of log-on, it is a very pain-free and simple process. A Hong Kong ID card holder, after the first login with the I'm Smart, the driver can use biometric authentication to log on to the app afterwards. So only 1 or 2 taps are needed. Just very briefly about law enforcement by the police. From my observation, all police officers are very patient. I think the chairman has also been a member of the IPCC. Usually, the police is on the receiving end of the public's scolding, not the other way around. Next, Ms. Judy Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I support the bill. Like other members, I want to have more functions, but during the briefing, I have already raised my suggestions. But I agree that we need to start somewhere and then enhance it along the down the road. There are many things to be improved indeed. For example, screen capping and going fully digital. Now, screen capping is a necessary function. Now, I know there is not a timetable for a one-stop platform yet, but now there are really too many apps run by different departments, so I hope the government can speed up the progress. Now, I have 2 questions about the dual track model. Now, if a driver has all the points deducted, then the driving license would be suspended. How do you align the information on online and offline? Now, about the price tag, it takes $12 million to establish the app, but I think it's worth it to offer by offering digitalized services. Now we have to think about cost always nowadays because of the fiscal position of the government. Now for drivers who have provided their emails and other means of electronic communication, you shouldn't need to send them a letter to the letterbox, since you should let the drivers choose to receive your notification via a letterbox or via the email, just like bank services. I think that will save some money.
問題咧，正正就係
I received a letter recently from the Transport Department asking me to update my electronic contact. Deputy Secretary, thank you. I will ask the Transport Department to answer the two questions. One, can we send push notifications instead of letters? We are working on it. Second, on how we deal with the suspension of driving license. Before the meeting, some members have given us some invaluable advice, and Mr. Chen and Mr. Gary Zhang asked about the screenshot issue. Perhaps in the screenshot, we will delete some of the essential information, because some people may need to capture their EDL for some other purpose. We will think about that. The TD, please. Thank you. We thank members for their comments. Perhaps in the future, we are not going to send letters anymore. Currently, we're collecting the electronic contacts from the driving license holders and the vehicle license holders. For driving license that is suspended by the court, the relevant records will be updated on the EDL app. All relevant departments should enter the relevant information on their system, and then these systems will be linked to the system of the Transport Department. For drivers who have not surrendered their driving license to the Transport Department, as long as their driving license is suspended by the court, the drivers should no longer be able to drive with their physical driving license. As long as the courts has entered the information, our EDL app will be updated in tandem. Can I go back to the questions regarding letter sending? They said that they are looking into it. But shouldn't we allow people to choose not to receive letters when you roll out this application? We do send push notifications via the e-licensing portal and the EDL app. We have to look at the acceptability of the measure. As the next step, we will review the relevant arrangements. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you. We are now trying to become a smart city. Data connectivity is something that we want to achieve under the Smart City Blueprint. Can we use the EDL app for other traffic-related matters? Can we use the EDL app to pay the summons or third-party insurance premium? In 2019, Thailand rolled out a EDLQL app. Drivers can use the application as the e-driving license, the blood type, the chronic illness records, medical records, and emergency contact of the drivers are also uploaded onto the application. I know that there is privacy concern, But I hope that when the government is updating the EDL application, they will consider including these medical related information in the application. Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Professor Wong, for the question. The Transport Department have included all licenses and certificates of the people in the e-licensing portal. On the portal, you can check your driving offense points, your licenses, the expiry date. There will be reminders, and you can apply for renewal of the licenses on the e-licensing portal. We thank you for your advice. Now we consolidate all traffic-related licenses onto the e-licensing portal. As identity authentication is required, for those with our identity card, they can use our e-licensing portal. But after you've logged on to the IM Smart app, you can actually click a button, and that will bring you to our EDL or e-licensing portal. You talked about emergency contact and whether we should include that in the mobile application. Well, first of all, on the IM Smart platform, we're going to include all personal licenses and certificates. The police will be able to identify the emergency contact of the relevant person when accidents happen. Thank you. Mr. Leung, Chief Superintendent, do you have such information with you? You can give us a reply later on. Thank you. Any follow-up questions? Now it's time for the second round. Mr. Chen Shuhong. Thank you, Chairman. After having the e-driving license, people may no longer bring their physical license when they're driving. If they go to, say, remote area, and if their mobile phone runs out of battery and they are not able to produce their physical driving license because they no longer carry it, what happens? Will this constitute a legal defense? The administration did not answer this question directly just now. We've talked about this on some other occasions. If a driver cannot produce a physical driving license and their mobile phones run out of battery such that they cannot produce their e-driving license, will they be able to produce their driving license in 72 hours at a nearby police station? Will the drivers be allowed to produce, say, their e-driving license after having their mobile phone recharged? Do we need a reasonable excuse defense in this case? Deputy Secretary, thank you. There are two provisions that we're going to invoke to handle the production of driving license. Under Section 42, Bracket 2, it is said that drivers must carry their driving license when they're driving. This is the provision that the police officers invoke often when they request the drivers to produce the identity card. Under Section 42, Bracket 2, it is said that anyone without a reasonable excuse commits does not comply with the requirements commits an offense. So the court actually will ask the defendant to explain why they don't have their physical driving license with them. Sorry, I don't want to have the case to have to go to the court. Can we invoke Section 43 bracket 4 of the Road Traffic Ordinance? That is, if the person cannot produce the driving license and cannot show their e-driving license, they should be able to, within 72 hours of such requirement being made, go to a police station to produce the driving license. I don't think that we need to take the case to the court and ask the defendant to explain to the judge. You need to alleviate people's concern. Thank you. We can invoke a Section 43 bracket 4, but actually, there is a reasonable excuse defense under the ordinance. When the police officers decide whether to issue a fixed penalty notice or not, they will act in accordance with the enforcement guidelines, and they will have regards to all relevant factors before making the decision. The same goes for the judiciary. They will consider all factors before initiating any prosecution. The member just now talked about Section 43. That is, any person who, upon being required to produce a driving license, fails to produce the license commits an offense. If, after several verbal warnings, the drivers refuse to produce the driving license, the police officers may invoke Section 43 bracket 3. Within 72 hours, ask the drivers to produce the driving license at a police station. I think that people's concerns are reasonable. If a driver cannot produce the physical driving license or the e-driving license, then they would have violated Section 42. And the enforcement officers will issue a fixed penalty notice to the drivers and ask the drivers to explain themselves in the court. Unless they have a reasonable excuse defense, then they may be convicted. However, if the drivers cannot produce the driving license or e-driving license within 72 hours at the police stations, then they would commit another offense. I will ask the police to explain more about the enforcement of the law. The police usually invoke Section 42 bracket 2 when they carry out their enforcement. Sometimes they will invoke Section 43. I will ask the Chief Inspector to elaborate.
Thank you. Concerning the situation you have mentioned, now usually our frontline officers would require the drivers to produce their driving license within 72 hours. So these are situations where tourists are involved. That's like Hong Kong citizens driving in an overseas country. They would have to present their international driving license. Now, there are more tourists driving in Hong Kong as well. In case of an accident, well, they might only have their passports with them. So it would allow them very sufficient time to present the relevant identification documents as the police station. So that's a flexibility offered by our frontline staff to visitors. Chairman, but the provisions make no distinction between visitors and local drivers. When a driver is stopped for whatever reasons, they will be asked to turn off the engine and present their identification documents. So if the drivers have no access to internet or if their batteries have run out, they would have violated the law because they cannot present a valid driving license. They would be committing an offense immediately and they will have to make a case to the judge. That is something that the public worries about. So some drivers would rather keeping a physical driving license on them all the time. That would be counterintuitive and undermine the convenience brought about by the EDL. Well, as I've mentioned, we hope and we require frontline staff to be compassionate in enforcing the law. They should put themselves into the driver's shoes. They need to judge whether the reasons given by the drivers are reasonable. They need to be polite and compassionate. And if the reasons are acceptable, they should provide convenience as much as they can. Now, if EDL fails, there are ways to bypass it. For example, confirming the data with the console. So we can't prepare for every scenario, but we will issue a guideline for frontline staff to follow in exercising their discretion. I think the instructions are very important. Whenever new measures are implemented, especially when new technology is involved. In the initial period, drivers and the police need to adapt. So if there are a clear set of guidelines, it would reassure everyone. Mr. Duncan Chiu, thank you. I would like to follow up on the issue of TDE licensing portal. I like this platform because it has a lot of functions. Now, out of the 2.5 million drivers, how many of them have registered on the platform? Like I asked previously, will you link the EDL with the TDE licensing portal to encourage onboarding to the portal by drivers? And have them install all the licenses on the platform? Now, you said even drivers without an I'm Smart account can log on to the EDL. But I think the general direction is to encourage the users to create an I'm Smart account in any event. Otherwise, there will be a lot of separated islands of platforms. You need to make it so that the drivers must have an I'm Smart account in order to use the EDL. Deputy Secretary, thank you. I will defer to the TD concerning the onboarding situation of the TDE licensing portal and its linkage with the EDL. Yes, the TD supports I'm Smart. We support the move to consolidate all licenses issued by government under I'm Smart. Several years ago, there were I'm Smart registration ambassadors who encouraged drivers to create an account at our licensing offices. Now, after several years, there has been a much higher percentage of drivers choosing to renew their license online after I'm Smart was implemented. Initially, there were only a few percentage points of drivers who renewed or applied for a license online. Now, more than 40% of the applicants use the e-channel. Deputy Commissioner, now there are some 80,000 accounts registered under the e-licensing portal. For vehicle owners, one account holder may have several vehicles under their names, so the number is fewer than the number of drivers. Now, this is a one-stop platform for vehicle owners and drivers to manage their information. They can have access to their demerit points and also traffic offenses. In the second quarter this year, more functions will be rolled out. By then, there will be an auto-filling function for forms. Users can book an online driving examination and also have access to other information. So will you promote the use of I'm Smart by linking it with EDL? Now we need anti-counterfeit measures for the EDL. Now the TD licensing portal cannot do that. For example, there is no dynamic QR code. But in the long run, we will try to link the platforms up. And just very briefly, for EDL, you can use biometric authentication via I'm Smart to log on to the EDL. So in our publicity campaign, we will drive these points very hard. We will tell people that you can log on to the EDL much more conveniently with I'm Smart. Chief Superintendent, thank you. Concerning drivers involved in serious traffic accidents. Now, if the drivers are unconscious, the frontline officers will immediately contact the console and try to identify the drivers and notify the relatives and families to get relevant information about the injured person. Now, if no information can be found in the system, the driver will be sent to the hospital, and through the hospital's record system, we can retrieve the record. Thank you. No more questions. If there are no other questions, we will move on to clause-by-clause scrutiny. Which public officer will guide us through the process? Mr. Leung, please. Now, concerning question asked by the legal advisor, they will jump in the process. Thank you, Chairman. Please refer to the markup copy. First of all, we have the blue bill itself, and also we have a markup copy prepared by the Secretariat and the Council brief. I will start now. First of all, the long title. The bill seeks to amend the Road Traffic Ordinance and its subsidiary legislation to allow an electronic representation of a driving license or driving instructor's license to be produced in lieu of a physical license in certain circumstances, and to make the forgery of such an electronic representation an offense, and to provide for related matters. Any questions? Please continue. Mr. Tony Jie. Sorry, Chairman. Now, the long title mentioned the term in certain circumstances. So what are some examples of these circumstances? for the public's benefit? Or under what circumstances will the driver not be required to produce an EDL? Thank you, Mr. Jay. In a moment, in subsequent clauses, these circumstances will be explained. So this is just the long title. So this is just a brief introduction of the bill concerning circumstances where a driver can produce the EDL. That includes producing the EDL according to the required format on a specified platform. So there are formats or platforms which the TD does not accept. Correct. Other provisions will touch on these. There are some circumstances where the EDL will not be accepted. I know, Chairman. I want to learn about the circumstances. Yes, but Mr. Leung said that these will be explained further down the bill. So we will not discuss the matter here. Any other questions? Please continue. Thank you, Chairman. Part 1, Preliminary. Clause 1, Short Title and Commencement. Clause 1, this ordinance may be cited as the Road Traffic Amendment Ordinance 2025. And the ordinance will come into operation on the 15th of September 2025. Please continue. Thank you. Next, Clause 2 of the bill. Enactments amended. The enactments specified in Parts 2 and 3 are amended as set out in those parts. No question. Please continue. Thank you, Chairman. Moving on to Part 2, Clause 3 of the bill. Please refer to the markup copy, page 1. Clause 3, Section 2 amended. Adding the 3 definitions required for EDL. 1. Electronic driving license means an electronic representation of a driving license that is in form specified under Section 110A1A and is obtained through an electronic platform specified under Section 110A1C. 2. Electronic driving instructor's license means an electronic representation of a driving instructor's license that is in a form specified under Section 110A1B and it is obtained through an electronic platform specified under Section 110A1C. And 3. Driving instructor's license means a driving instructor's license issued under the Road Traffic Driving Licenses Regulation, Cap 374/B. Now, currently, the definition for driving instructor's license is only included in the regulation but not in the principal ordinance, that is a road traffic ordinance. To ensure that we can effectively define electronic driving license, we propose to add the definition of the same in the principal ordinance. Please continue. Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the administration for explaining why we need to add the definition for driving instructor's license. Now, there is a new definition for electronic driving instructor's license and electronic driving license. There are full driving licenses and learners driving licenses, as well as probationary driving licenses. In the subsequent part of the bill, you only refer to driving license and also learners and probationers driving license under the definition of Cap 374. Now, by adding the definition for EDL, does it mean it applies to all other kinds of driving licenses, including learners and probationary licenses? If that's the case, why do you have to distinguish electronic driving instructor's license with driving license.
多謝陳議員。咁啊，陳議員講
Thank you, Chairman. The amendment will cover all license issued under CAP 374. Currently, under CAP 374, we have already defined a driving license. That is, driving license issued under the ordinance. For learners, temporary, probationary driving license, they are all covered under the ordinance. As for driving instructor's license, as it is currently just set out in the regulation, in the bill, we're also going to amend the regulation and we're going to repeal the definition of a driving instructor's license there. So we defined it in the principal ordinance and repeal it under the regulation. So we're talking about a driving instructor license. So all licenses under the CAP 374 will be covered. Driving instructor's license exists in both the ordinance and regulations. Now we define it under the principal ordinance and we are going to repeal the same definition in the regulation.
或者我補充少少嘅主席，因為現時個駕駛駕
Let me supplement. We don't have the definition of a driving instructor's license in the principal ordinance. In the road traffic license regulations, we do have such a definition. Because now we're going to digitalize both the driving license and the driving instructor's license. That's why we want to move the definition from the regulations to the principal ordinance. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you. You talked about form and electronic representation under the definition of electronic driving license, but you use the word display in the English rendition. The same problem appears in other clauses. For form, we're referring to the format of the license. But the electronic representation will not be explained until we reach section 110 bracket 1A. Say, now I use a device to download the license in the specified form. What does electronic representation mean? Very often, when you talk about digitalization, you're referring to PDF. So does showing a PDF mean electronic representation? Will there be any misunderstanding of the word representation because you rely on this definition in your enforcement? Is there better ways for us to draft the definition to avoid what I mentioned from happening? Thank you. Who will take the question? Thank you. I will ask the DOJ to further elaborate. When you drafted the bill, we actually considered the issue raised by Mr. Lam. Take electronic driving license as an example. It means an electronic representation of a driving license that fulfills the following conditions. First, it should be in a form specified and is obtained through an electronic platform specified. Only when these two conditions are fulfilled would a license be a legitimate electronic driving license. As to the English and Chinese, translation, I will ask DPO to, or rather the DOJ to supplement. Thank you. Will a driver be allowed to download the license in the form specified and present it to the authorized officer? Well, however, if the drivers do not display the driving license through the electronic platform specified, then they would be considered not having produced their e-driving license. If they don't show the e-driving license through the electronic platform specified, then they would not be regarded as having complied with the requirements. As for the word representation, it actually means showing or displaying something. Now we ask drivers to display or show their electronic driving license. That's why we use such a word. You have not answered my question. Perhaps I was not clear enough. Maybe Ms. Doreen Kong will help me phrase my question better. PDF is a form of electronic representation. Under some circumstances, I may use my mobile phone to download your e-driving license through the electronic platform specified. I may take a photo of the e-driving license with another mobile phone because you may not allow me to screen cap the driving license. That's achievable. Would that constitute a representation? Given my limited legal knowledge, I think that's a form of electronic representation too. I just want to point out the issue. You said that you have considered it. The word representation appears in also other clauses. I will raise the same point when we come to it. Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. Chairman, I completely understand Mr. Lam's concern. Now, the administration does not want to amend the definition of the electronic driving license. Will you set out very clearly that screenshot is not allowed in the legislation? Will you further elaborate the words electronic representation? I forgot a question that's policy related. In the principal ordinance, persons with disabilities have a special ways to obtain their driving license. For people with visual impairment, will e-driving license be convenient for them? I'm not talking about blind people or people with visual impairment. I'm talking about regular people with disabilities. I will ask the TD to talk about our arrangements or support measures for persons with disabilities. I will also ask Mr. Leung to take the other question. TD, please. Thank you. When PWD applies for driving license, we have a special team to test the knowledge of the potential drivers, and PWDs can apply for the e-driving license online. Mr. Leung, thank you. We thank Ms. Kong for the question. Under section 110, we're going to add 110 boy. That's circumstances under which persons regarded as having not produced electronic driving license. That include whether or not the drivers must show the driving license on specified electronic platform, and whether the license can be read or scanned by the authorized officers. Well, because after the drivers have take a screenshot of the e-driving license, then the dynamic elements will be gone. Next, Mr. Chan Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on a word. I've thought about the word representation too. Electronic driving license means an electronic representation of a driving license that B is obtained through an electronic platform specified under section 110A1C. If we go to 110AC, it talks about obtaining and displaying. I think that all the administration have to do is to refer people to section 110A bracket 1 bracket C. The keywords is displayed instead of obtained. It would be clearer if the administration used the word display. If the person obtained the license through the platform but display it by some other means, then that person would not have been regarded to have fulfilled the regulations. If we use the word obtain, then that's more tricky. If we look at 110A bracket 1 bracket C, then we would know that the person need to obtain and display the license through the specified electronic platform. Under some circumstances, drivers may have their mobile phone screen cracked. Then the authorized officers will not be able to scan the QR code. Should we replace the word obtained by display? Before Mr. Leung answers the question, it's almost time. Let's complete this clause today. We should have another meeting. Mr. Leung. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the member for his comment. We look at several ordinances together when we drafted the bill. Under section 110A bracket 1 bracket C, there's the words obtain and display. But that's about when the commissioner may specify form of electronic driving license. In the definition of the electronic driving license, we already talked about electronic representation. In the definition, we just want to tell the people and the law enforcement agencies what a e-driving license is. As for this form of the e-driving license, under the definition of EDLs, we have already referred people to section 110A bracket 1 bracket C. I think that by reading the two sections together, people would better understand what it means by electronic driving license. I think that's reasonable. Next, Mr. Duncan Chiu. Thank you. Many members talked about the use of the words electronic representation. You can screen cap a EDL, but then the administration could prevent people from screen capping it. You can add some invisible watermarks to prevent people from taking a photo of the EDL with another mobile phone. Third, regarding the dynamic QR code, it should change once every few seconds. So the QR code should have changed in a few seconds. Do we have all of the 3 functions, or are we going to have only functions 1 and 3? Thank you.
梁先生，
Mr. Leung, thank you, Chairman. Yes, all the above counterfeit anti-counterfeiting features will be present. There is the dynamic TD logo on top of the other 2 features. So all these features have been tested by the red team. We have essentially eliminated any chance for hacking. Today's meeting's time is up. We will need to have another meeting to complete the clause-by-clause scrutiny. The next meeting will be held at 10:45 a.m. on the 28th of April, Monday, to 12:45 p.m. Thank you.
另外，
Before you leave, I have a question for you, members, concerning this piece of legislative amendment. Should we only invite written submissions from the public instead of conducting a public hearing? Thank you. The Secretariat will follow it up. Thank you.